Thank you so much for joining us for our inaugural episode of In the Bonus. Since our shooting of the show, news did come out from Georgetown in regards to head coach Tasha Butts. She will be taking time away to focus on her health in her ongoing battle against breast cancer. Our thoughts and prayers are with Tasha and her family. News came out from Lee Reed, director of athletics at Georgetown. His message saying, since her hiring in April, Tasha has proven to be a coach full of passion and drive. As she battles this terrible disease, she continues to be an inspiration to our student athletes, coaches, and staff, and we will support her in this fight. Her community stretches from coast to coast, and I know now more than ever, we will band together to be Tasha tough. A message from the Big East Conference. The heartfelt thoughts and prayers of the entire Big East Conference are with Coach Tasha Butts as her courageous battle against cancer continues. Her impact on the Hoyas women basketball program has already been felt, and we know that her strength, determination, and the support of her family and the Georgetown community will serve her well as she meets this challenge. I was lucky enough to meet head coach Tasha Butts a little bit earlier in the spring when she came onto campus, and those quotes from athletic director Lee Reed could not be more true. She is such a treat to be around. And Coach Butts, my thoughts and prayers are with you. I'm praying extra for you. Please enjoy this episode and keep Coach Butts in your prayers. It is one of the most exciting days of the year because today is the release of the 2023-2024 Big East Women's Basketball Conference schedules, but also today is our inaugural episode of In the Bonus. We are so happy to have you joining us. My name is Meghan Caffrey. I'm your host for the show, and also joining me are basketball analyst Kim Adams and Isis Young. And let's get to know my co-host a little bit here. Isis, welcome in.
Thank you, Meg. Hi, Kim. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so excited to cover Big East women's basketball. Just a little bit on my background. I played 7 years of college basketball at 4 different schools, and somehow I didn't land at a Big East school any of the transfer years. But I'm excited that they finally brought me in this year as someone to help cover the league with you guys. While I'm not broadcasting, I still play professional basketball. I've been overseas and played in Germany, Greece, and Australia. And when I'm home, this is a full-time gig. I love to call games. I love to podcast. I love to cover the best brand of basketball in the country. And I truly believe that the Big East brings one of those really cool versions to the game.
Kim, you have covered plenty of Big East games within your days as well.
Yeah, I have really, since I started in broadcasting, I'd gone to grad school to get into it. And I was just thinking back today, my first intro into broadcasting was with the Big East. I've been covering it, I don't know, I guess probably 7 or 8 years now, which is crazy to think. Have gotten to know so many people around the league, coaches, players. I know we have some new coaches coming in, excited to meet them this year, but just echoing off of what Isis was saying, I think the last couple of years, the conference has really taken some tremendous steps forward in terms of parity, in terms of teams getting better, NCAA tournament appearances and success. And I know the fans and players, everyone wanted more content. So this was a great idea that the Big East has put together, and excited to be working with you ladies on it.
And Kim, you mentioned new head coaches. We're going to hear from one of the league's new head coaches, Providence head coach Erin Batth, in just a bit. But I would love to hear from you guys too of, you've covered plenty games, especially last season, talking about some of the strides that the league made. What are some of your overall thoughts for this upcoming season, coming off of last year where you look at it, UConn won their 3rd straight Big East title, but not only did they make it to the Sweet 16 in the NCAAs, Villanova did as well. This league just continues to level up, it seems, year in and year out.
Yeah, I would say just on a national scale, I think the conference has really been elevating. And you look back to 2 NCAA tournaments ago when Creighton reached the Elite Eight. You mentioned Villanova was very close to getting there last season. So I think just the profile of the league with this kind of new generation of college basketball with the transfer portal. We're seeing a lot of talented players come into the league. I'm excited to see how that's all going to play out. But I think really in the last couple of years, the goal of the conference is to keep getting more and more teams into the NCAA tournament and not just get there, but win some games, as we've seen these teams doing. I know we're going to talk a lot of UConn, but obviously it's getting some key pieces back there. But I think a lot of other teams are elevating their own games, knowing that UConn has been the top dog since they come back. And these teams are putting everything together that they can to try to knock off the Huskies.
And Isis, I know you're excited. Speaking of elevating their games, you're excited for some transfers that we're seeing coming into a couple of these teams this season. But what are some of your thoughts overall about the league?
Yeah, I think what I love about the league is that it's just a dogfight day in and day out. The reason why the Creightons can advance to an Elite Eight or the Villanovas or the UConns continue to do well is because of the tough conference play that they have. It's because they have a St. John's, a Seton Hall, a Providence that is constantly going at them toe-to-toe and giving them tough games day in and day out. So it's a tough league. I think one thing, just being a guard and getting to cover this league, it's one of my favorites to cover. The just magnitude of the different guards and the versatility in this league, strictly off of watching the guard play alone, you're bought in and you're locked in, and then come up some of the awesome post players. And there are a few transfer post players that I think are going to make a staple in this league as well. So just a lot of newcomers coming to the league, a few new coaches that are experienced, that can bring a different look to the Big East. But day in and day out, it's a tough conference to play in.
Well, okay, let's now start with UConn, especially since you mentioned some good guard play, Isis, okay? So let's first take a look at the Huskies' upcoming schedule for the 2023-2024 season. They start at home against Butler, and then if you do look to mid-January, they'll take on St. John's and Seton Hall. Always fun to kind of go up against those two New Jersey, New York schools. And this team has been a team that I think in the past couple of years, the storylines, obviously with Paige going out, right, it has just been rifled with injuries. And yet UConn proves to be UConn. Now, they did fall in last year's Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament, but they bring back a stacked roster. They do lose two key pieces, but what are some of your thoughts just at a glance? Isis, I'll start with you with looking at UConn.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first, we've got to honor just the fact that, hopefully we see a healthy Paige Bueckers back right on the court. I think it's going to be so exciting to just see Paige. And I think sometimes the world forgets we've only seen 1 year of her.
Yeah.
We saw the most spectacular freshman year, but we've only seen 1 year. And so really excited to see her back on the court. I'll also go a step further. Aaliyah Edwards has become one of my favorite front court players to watch in the country. Just the way that she's tenacious on the court, she gets after it. I almost feel like I've seen her name for 6 or 7 years at this point. Like this roster, I don't know if it's you guys, but as I'm looking at the roster of returning players, I'm like, haven't you all been here like 8 years? Like, haven't we seen you play so much basketball together? Well, that's what's going to make them extremely dangerous, is that this core nucleus that is coming back has played a ton of basketball together.
Yeah. Kim, you got to know the Huskies quite a bit last season. You covered a good deal of their games. What maybe interests you or excites you the most when you're looking at UConn?
Well, I think as a whole, basketball fans have been robbed of seeing a healthy Paige Bueckers and AZ Fudd. We saw maybe a handful of games during AZ's freshman year, but then Paige was obviously hurt. We didn't see them play together last season. So we've kind of been hearing this hype of AZ and Paige, their best friends, Team USA, but we've never gotten to see that really flourish on the court. So I know we're all keeping our fingers tightly crossed. Those two get to stay on the floor this year, fully healthy. Going to be one of the best backcourts, not just in the country, but I think that we've ever seen in college basketball, men's, women's. I mean, these two are elite. So that's what I'm most looking forward to. Also excited about Aaliyah Edwards. Yeah, it's like she's finally a senior. Like I feel like we've seen her grow up. We've seen her kind of go through the ups and downs a little bit, but was so dominant last year. And then one more piece I'm looking forward to is seeing Ice Brady on the floor.
Yeah.
She missed all of last season, her freshman year. She was a top 5 recruit coming in, I think, from the West Coast. But I remember just talking to Coach Oriema leading up to one of their games about a big hit to them. Everyone was talking about not having Paige, but he said, you won't believe how good Ice Brady is, how mature she is. So I'm really excited to see her get her much awaited debut for the Huskies as well.
Yeah. Listen, anyone named or nicknamed Ice has to be bringing firepower. So I'm all here for it.
I think there's a little bit of a bias there.
Maybe.
But I think, to both of your points, I remember covering, and I got to do a couple of post games with UConn before Paige was out with injury, and the little bit that we were able to see her and AZ playing together. And what I remember was it was just so much fun. Like, you could really feel the pure joy that they were all having playing as a team. And so it's, Kim, to your point of just, we've been robbed of seeing those two play together. We've been robbed of seeing UConn really just flourish in what UConn is, and just have this feeling like this negative, this cloud over them a little bit of injury after injury. It's heartbreaking. And so hope, knock on wood, that this season, it's just that fun, that loose UConn that we have so much enjoyment watching.
For sure. I'll take it a step further too. And this is one of the few teams in the league that is not bringing in any transfers. Yeah. Right. Coach Oriema clearly showing the faith that he has in the returning players, even obviously in the key 2 players that they lost here on your screen, but no transfers. We've got the redshirt freshman in Ice that's coming back from an injury, and then 3 straight freshmen that are coming in. And so I'm also looking at them. I'm going to see, do they get a piece of the pie? Are we going to see some of these true freshmen play? We're starting to get to an era in college basketball where you don't see freshmen get on the court because everyone takes advantage of the transfer portal and everyone is looking for experience. So it's nice to see that the Huskies brought in some true freshmen. And I like to see them get some time in the Big East.
I'm curious for both of you, Kim, not to interrupt, but just when you think about your playing days and you look at the freshmen who are coming in for UConn, right? You've got these big time recruits, top 15 players, top 6 players, number 41 ranked recruit. How does, when you come in as a freshman, to not only have the players who are older than you with all of the experience and the notoriety that they have make you better, but coming in knowing your other freshmen, it's like this really good, healthy competition. How much more does that push you as a player to really continue to work to always like earn your spot?
Yeah, well, I think when you come in as a freshman, you have to be realistic about how things are going to come together, and maybe your opportunities are going to be much more limited than they were in high school when you were probably playing every minute of the game. So now we have just talked about how much is back for UConn this year. So hopefully at this point you've had conversations with your coaches about what you can expect, when they might need you, how they see you, when you're going to come in, what they're going to expect from you. So I think especially when you come into UConn, a team that's top to bottom All-Americans, you have to be realistic to say, I'm not going to come in and start over Paige Beckers and AZ Fudd. But when I do get my 5 minutes, what am I going to bring to the floor? You're going to need to bring defense. Coach Oriema, if you're scoring, but you're getting burnt on the other end, like Coach Oriema is taking you out. Yeah. So I think you have to be unselfish. You have to be realistic and just willing to play your role. And we've seen players from UConn do that and really buy into that. I'm thinking of a player like Aubrey Griffin, who has been such an X factor for them. And she's just done whatever they needed her to do, whether it's rebound, whether it's run up and down the floor. I think that's the type of player you have to be when you come to UConn and there's just star after star.
Mm-hmm. I'm excited for what we're going to start introducing on today's podcast as we're working through all of these schedules. We have a little bit of trivia Okay, so let's start with our first trivia question. I'm going to put you guys on the spot if you want to give a quick answer real quick before we head to break. How many times has DePaul women's basketball coach Doug Bruno been named Big East Coach of the Year? Any bites, you two?
I'm going to say 4. I feel like Coach Bruno is fantastic and has been around for a while. I feel like 4-ish area could be good there.
Okay, Kim, any thoughts?
He has been around for a very long time, like I want to say 40 plus years, but it wasn't always in the Big East. So
Fair.
This is true.
I do like Ice's answer of 4. I'll say 2. No disrespect. There's been a lot of good coaches, and I think he's been a part of different leagues.
Yeah. A legend in women's basketball for sure. We will get the answer, and we'll go over Creighton's schedule. We'll see the DePaul Blue Demons schedule coming up as well, and Seton Hall after the break.
Fresh, warm hot dogs.
When I'm not selling hot dogs, I invest in a fund that advances innovations like robotics.
Fresh, warm hot dogs straight out of my torso. One for you, one for you. Oh, you're a messy one.
Cool, right? So cool.
Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ, a fund that gives you access to NASDAQ 100 innovations.
Hot dogs. Fresh, warm hot dogs.
Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
While we were in break, we came up with a really fun game. We're going to go competing with all of the trivia between Isis and Kim. And so far, both of you guys, we are now goose eggs for both of you. It was a good, I mean, listen, we were 2, we were 4, right in the middle at 3.
It can only go up from here.
Only up from here. Maybe someone at home was able to get that one right. We've got plenty more trivia to come. But we'll also get to DePaul's schedule in just a second. But let's now turn to Creighton's schedule. And Isis, I'll chat with you about the Blue Jays here. But as we take a quick peek at their schedule, they do start conference away. They face Marquette to open up the Big East schedule at Marquette. And then they actually do, if you look at their bookends on the schedule, they finish away for both of those. But this team is a team I think that has enough veteran experience, honestly, coming back, who is able to handle a schedule like that. Isis, I know that you are very excited about some of the faces that we're going to see again this season.
Oh, absolutely. I enjoyed covering this team. I got to call a couple of their games on the road during conference play. And they have the household names, right? The Blue Jays, we've seen these names time and time again. Lauren Jensen, Morgan Molly, Emma Rosnick, who I was really impressed with towards the end of last season. I felt like she stepped up in a major way for the Blue Jays. But this is a team that is returning 70% of their scoring, Megan. And so talk about bringing firepower back. Talk about a team that's returning to the top of the conference right off the bat. I think the Blue Jays are just in a really good, comfortable position where they've got, again, a good nucleus that has played together, that has won together. These are players that advanced to that Elite Eight a couple of years ago that Kim spoke about earlier in the show. The only thing that they've lost to me in terms of big losses is just that key guard play. And so when we talk about some of the things that they have lost, it was Carly Batchelor, who was a guard/forward, I think more so on the guard side. And then one of my favorites, honestly, to watch in the league last year was Rachel Saunders. I just thought Rachel Saunders was a high IQ, very smart player, a glue player that really kept this team together offensively and defensively. And so they're going to have to come with some really good newcomers, but especially to fill those guard positions of these losses.
And I want to stay on that real quick, Isis, with just, you look at some of the returners. When you mentioned Lauren Jensen, Morgan Molly, Emma Rosick, they actually got even more experience playing together over the summer. They were representing the USA on 3-on-3. So how much more does that even level them up or take them to the next level of having even more of that national experience together?
Yeah, great question. I'm a huge fan of 3-on-3 basketball. The way that it's played, it teaches you to break down the game with a 3-man game, which is really majority of what the game is. It's either a 3-man game on one side or a 2-man game on the other. And so those specific players getting to work together, getting to break down the game in simpler terms is going to be awesome for them. And I think they're such an experienced group, a group that can score inside and score outside, which is probably why they were chosen to represent our country 3-on-3, because it's hard to beat. So I think we're going to see those three really take it up another level from that type of play that they experienced during the summer.
And it was so much fun to follow along with all of that. Now, let's turn to some of the newcomers. So some of the fresher faces. Who kind of pops out when you look at these three to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with the redshirt freshmen that we're going to see this year in the newcomers, and that would be Brittany Harshaw and then Lexi Unruh. And I love highlighting redshirt freshmen because that first redshirt year is critical. I experienced it my first year coming back from an ACL injury when I was at the University of Florida. I remember getting recruited to some of these household names like a Villanova that always has redshirt freshmen because they believe in that valuable year when you can get into a team, learn the culture, understand the game, still participate in practice, but not have the pressure of performing in games. And so I'm looking at Unruh and Harshaw as players that are going to come in and play as freshmen, but not play at a freshman level because they have some experience with this group.
Kim, I'm going to turn to you now as we're going to start looking at DePaul a little bit. Talk about a team that we're going to, I think, see a lot more newer faces on this season. First, we'll take a quick peek at DePaul's schedule, their conference slate, as they open up the season away against Xavier. They do have UConn coming up in mid-January. They are facing the Huskies away with that first meeting before they wrap up third to last game with the Huskies one more time. But DePaul loses some of their key talent. You can't put it any other way. No more Anissa Morrow. How do the Blue Demons make up for that scoring?
Yeah, well, they're losing an All-American. I mean, that's not a spoiler alert. They're losing a lot more. We see these returning players. Megan, I would spin it as a changing of the guard. And I think when you lose the amount of scoring that they are going to see this season, it's exciting in a way because so much of their offense revolved around Anissa Morrow that now you can start to do some different things. And it's going to be, Coach Doug Bruno, one of the best we've seen in the game. This is going to be a challenge for him to it's almost a brand new a kitchen cabinet of players that you have. Anaya Peoples, we saw in that first graphic in her second year now with the Blue Demons. She had come over from Notre Dame. I think they're really going to rely on her leadership. But then Doug Bruno did what you have to do in this situation. And in this day and age, he hit the transfer portal hard. And what I like what he did is he brought in players from some storied programs who are at the top of their major conferences, whether it's Pac-12, whether it's ACC. And he's brought in players that even if they've been role players on their team, they've been to NCAA tournaments, they've had NCAA wins. One of the players I'm excited to see is Bryn Maskowicz. She's a 6'3" forward from UCLA, a team that is coming off of a lot of success. And something that DePaul hasn't had too much of in recent years is size on the interior. Anissa Morrow was an absolute beast, but a little bit undersized. I'm excited to see them have a bigger player inside. Caitlin Gilbert at the top of that list has been a couple different stops, Notre Dame, then Missouri. But again, storied programs. She'll be reuniting with Anaya Peoples, her former teammates. And I think this is a situation where you're looking for leaders right away because you've lost so much scoring. A question mark I have for them is who is going to emerge in the point guard role. Kendall Holmes is somebody who had stepped into that role nicely for them last year. She's no longer coming back. So probably my biggest question mark for the Blue Demons is who is going to emerge as that starting point guard, kind of be that leader to get all of these pieces to gel together. And it's certainly going to take a little bit of time. But as we said, Coach Doug Bruno, a legend of the game, I'm confident he's going to figure everything out. He went and retooled things. He went hard in the transfer portal, and it's going to take some time, but that's what a lot of programs are doing in this day and age.
And how fun, I guess it's got to be fun, right? Because coaches enjoy this a lot. But now for Kim, when you look at all of the Big East coaches going up against DePaul this season, now it's a brand new game plan a little bit, because last year especially, you knew how do we shut down Anissa Morrow. So now it's got to be a little refreshing, kind of, for lack of better terms, for some of these coaches to now game plan against what is DePaul going to look like this year.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you lose a player that's averaging 25 a game, we're going to see it with Villanova with no Maddie Siegrist. I think the opposing coaches taking a little bit of an exhale, but they're really going to throw away the scouting reports and the film from last season, because this is going to be a brand new DePaul team. Interested to see, in recent years, we knew DePaul as the 3-point shooting team, not to take Creighton's slogan, but letting it fly.
Yeah.
And it's something that they haven't done as much in the last 2 years, because they had the presence of Anissa Morrow inside. So will we see this team getting back to a really lethal 3-point shooting team? I think Coach Bruno says shoot it or share it as his slogan. So will we see kind of a DePaul team that we saw maybe 3-4 seasons ago, which was always a really difficult team to defend with just shooters everywhere on the perimeter?
Talking about shooters, let's now turn to Seton Hall and go over their schedule. They did lose. We'll get to it in just a second, a key shooter for them. But the Seton Hall Pirates, they open up their schedule away with Georgetown in December. They do get a nice little home break mid-January. They face the Huskies at home, followed up by St. John's. That rivalry is just so much fun. Let's look at the returners for Seton Hall, because some issues that Tony Bozzella is now going to have to key in on is how to replace the scoring of Lauren Park-Lane. But he has Azana Baines especially. We'll hear from him in just a second of how much he was able to highlight her and really say the leadership that she brings. Who's going to be the leading scorer now for Seton Hall? I think that's really where the question that Tony Bozzella has with his offense, as you look at Azana, Shaylin Hagens, who is going to be that pop-out, standout player? Lauren Park-Lane, we covered her in plenty of games, and she had the ability, no matter how small she was, she had the ability to completely take over games with her scoring. I think the size, as much as she didn't have that big size, she was able to find pockets down low and create so much space for herself where it was a threat. I know, Kim, you had mentioned Doug Bruno going in to the transfer portal. Something that Tony Bozzella has been able to do in years past, has been able to go to that transfer portal and find talent, and even more so, find that talent that's able to mesh so well together. He's kind of been someone who has done that so well. They lost size when you do look at Sydney Cooks especially. So he's going to have to replace scoring. He's going to have to replace size. He has a tall task at hand, but he is confident in this team that he's put together. That was one takeaway for sure in the discussion that I had with him. He's excited, he's confident, and he just, continues to do what he does, that magic that he has in the transfer portal. So since I teased it enough, let's hear from the man himself, Tony Bozzella from Seton Hall. He kicks off our first interview here on In the Bonus. We are so excited to welcome in for our first ever interview here on In the Bonus, head coach of Seton Hall women's basketball, Tony Bozzella. Coach, welcome into In the Bonus. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Megan, I'm so excited to be the first. Oh my gosh, makes me a little extra nervous, but you'll get me through this. And thanks for inviting me, and I'm excited to chat.
Well, first guest, and rightfully so, Coach. You have been a part of the Big East Conference for a decade. You've been with Seton Hall 10 years. I mean, big picture, when we look at the program with Seton Hall and what you've been able to do with it and accomplish with this team, what are some of your favorite memories and accomplishments within the 10 years at Seton Hall?
Wow, yeah, it's 10 years. I'm getting old. Um, we had my daughter's wedding a couple weeks ago, as you know, and one of the greatest accomplishments was a bunch of my former players were there. Them being on staff, and Shakina Richardson, Dee Dee Simmons, Deja Simmons, all played with Sam, and all were a member of my staff and my team at some point, and that was great. So we've established a good family connection. Obviously we've had a lot of success too. We've had the best 10-year run in the 50 years of Seton Hall women's basketball, which is anniversary this year. So we're excited to celebrate that and bring back all these great players and coaches and people that have helped make Seton Hall women's basketball a great success. But, for me, it's just a lot of great memories. What I've tried to tell the girls this year more than ever is enjoy the journey. My daughter got married, and that day was one of the greatest days of my life. But the 20 months leading up to it were fantastic as well, because her and her now husband, Chris, made the whole planning a family affair. They enjoyed it. We had fun with it. And that's what I want our girls to have now. And, I've learned a lot of lessons through the years on that, and maybe enjoying the present a little bit more. And, it's been great. The 10 years, I'm blessed with, a lot of great memories.
Coach, that's one thing that I love about you and the Seton Hall program is family is so important to you. And we've been able to see it with covering plenty of your games. Your family's always on the sidelines for whatever games they can make of it. You're always, talking about your family as well. How have you been able to really integrate that family dynamic into the teams that you've coached as well?
It's hard. I mean, we've been through a lot. We bring a lot of transfers in. So we try and be as honest and transparent as possible. A lot of times that works really well, and it has. And, a few times it didn't as well. But, we're all learning. We're all getting better. I've had a great staff, and they've really, Meghan, helped these girls, be more comfortable and get to know each other. This is the best we've been at in terms of our family, in terms of our culture, in terms of our environment in our 11th year, because we have great kids in the program, and we have a great staff, and our previous staff did a great job of, assistants did a great job of helping bring these kids in, and our present staff's doing a great job of getting them comfortable and getting them to know each other, and they really seem to like each other. So, we try and, I say this all the time, Meghan, the kids make the culture. I bring the kids in, so I start the culture. The kids make the culture. And I've really, really talked about that a lot in the past 6 months. And they've embraced it really well.
When you do look at the team that you have this season, who is one of the leaders at the charge of the culture, of leading all of those things, of making sure that family dynamic's really there?
Well, Azana Baines, first of all, she's, our best player, but she's also one of the best players in the league and one of the best players in the country. I mean, she's come out of, a beginning here that she didn't play particularly well, and that she struggled with injury, and she's always kept the faith, and she's always been a great teammate, and she's always been a great person we can coach. And, her whole level has blossomed so much, and she's played on representing the USA 3x3 team in many different events. In fact, she's in Mongolia right now representing the under 24 team, going for a gold medal, and I'm so proud of her. But we ask each kid to fill out a little form, and then it says something you want to improve on, something you want to do well, what you're looking for this year. And one of the things Azana wrote is, of course, she wants to be, a great player and hopefully be first team all conference and all those things. But she wrote, I want to finish my master's and get really good grades. Aww. And that epitomizes what we've now become. We have kids that want to do well in school, want to continue, to do well on the basketball floor. And, we've had that in the past, but not as consistent as we have it now. And I would tell you, half our kids wrote, want to get good grades. And that meant a lot to us and where we're at right now. So you ask me, it starts with your best player, and it starts with Azana, who's a great player. And I've had kids like, Amari Wright, Shea Hagans, all getting great grades, all really improving. Kay Satterfield represented Puerto Rico in many different events this summer, and she's looks fantastic, and we're excited for that. But I think as our culture is so strong right now, it's because these kids take basketball and off basketball very seriously.
And I love, Coach, also that when you're answering that question, Azana Baines is a transfer. She transferred into your program. And we've talked about it so many times in years past, how you have always been so great with grabbing talent out of the transfer portal and then having them become such huge pieces to your team. So how is Azana kind of a perfect reflection of what you've been able to do with the team, where a transfer has come in and she's the leader, right? She's able to get that culture piece well, so that everyone takes in these transfers so well that there's none of the dynamics that you are afraid of by sometimes having that happen.
Jealousy and all that stuff. And Azana came into the program and she was playing great, and then got hurt and really struggled, and then really dedicated herself to her rehab and got back and did a great job. But yes, it's a fine line between jealousy, playing these transfers, and not playing these transfers, and doing that. And we've done this for many years, and my former associate head coach was at the forefront of Coach DeFalco of getting transfers. But our staff now is doing a great job with it as well, and continuing to build on it. Jose and Pete and Cassandra and Didi and Shakina have all really done a great job of helping bring these players in and continuing to develop them. But what I love about Azana, it's never about Azana. It was about Seton Hall. And I even said to Azana, you're going to have to work a little extra now after this injury and do better. And she did, and she still wasn't playing, and it still didn't matter. She kept working and working and working. And why is she a great leader, and why do they follow her? Because she comes in every day, consistent in her effort, consistent as a person, friendly, responsible, and really Seton Hall dedicated. And everyone else has been able to fall on board. And then you have 4-year players like Amari Wright, and she's just really become a great leader in this program, and I'm really proud of her.
When you look at on the court with the talent that you have on this year's roster, Coach, what excites you the most about the team you're bringing?
The unknown. We have 9 new kids.
I love that.
We do. We have 9 new kids, and I was talking to another coach in our league the other day, and we were both really excited because we've lost great players. I mean, Lauren Park Lane, arguably one of the greatest players to ever play here. Sydney Cooks, arguably one of the greatest players to ever play here. Maya Bembry had 3 great years here. We had a couple other kids as well that graduated and stuff. But I gotta tell you, these kids are trying really hard. They're working really hard. They are very talented. We just have to put the talent together and get them to play together. But they've made it really easy for me and my staff because they're very consistent in their work ethic. We have a phrase, do your job. We had it last year. We asked everyone what you want our phrase to be this year, and they were like, do your job. Let's just do our job, Coach B. If we all do our job, we're going to be really good. And they're very open to instruction. We've had 0, and I mean 0 instances of any issues at all because they just work hard. They're very happy here. And they've made my life really happy. And I'm excited as ever. It's my 31st year, 11th year at Seton Hall. I've never been more excited. And I've never been more nervous in some ways, Megan, because we're all so new. I wish we could play 6 exhibition games so I could see what we have. But I know we have good players, and we have most of all good people.
It's so funny, Coach. I heard someone talking about Aaron Rodgers the other day, and they're like, he's going to be dangerous this season because he's happy. And so it's so great of hearing you talk about your players that way, of saying they're happy. And in some ways, right, we're able to see happiness. And when you're enjoying your team, that all transpires then into playing really well too.
100%, Megan. And, we've been together since, early June. So it's now the honeymoon phase is over. And they all came back with a lot of excitement. We had a tremendous week last week. Not tremendous week of playing great basketball, but tremendous week of working really hard.
Yeah.
So in my mind, we'll get to the great basketball at some point. There's other years where we've just played great basketball, but maybe it's just because we were really talented. This year's team has played really hard and really together. And last week was a big first week for us because I was interested to see how we would function as a group, and we functioned fantastically. And I give the kids a lot of credit for this, Megan. I do, and the staff too.
Coach, you're gonna love it. One of the dogs.
Oh, there they are.
us and the doodles.
Yes,
and throws it all the way.
Right. And my Max has been doing great. He's waiting for Dad to take him out later on, and he's my guy and stuff. And I've had him meet the girls once, but he needs to come by a little more often.
Oh yeah, and you can have him doing sprints with the players, and we'll see who's able to keep up with Max. That's what we have to do. Coach, before your team will get into the conference schedule of Big East play, you released your non-conference slate, and it's a tough one. Where do you see some of the biggest challenges within your non-conference games prior to heading into the Big East?
I think, and I'm not trying to give you coach speak because me, I'm as honest as it comes and transparent, but I think each and every game is going to be a challenge for us because, we open up with Iona. Iona won their league last year. They have a brand new head coach, my former point guard at LIU, who helped lead me to my first NCAA tournament. Ange is going to do a great job. We don't have the offensive firepower we've had in the past. So we were able to, extend some leads and give us a lot more margin for error because we were able to score. This just team's not going to score, as easily as the other teams. I mean, you lose Lauren, you lose Sydney. Geez, Andra from the year before. But what I will say is we're going to execute really well. But the games will be a little closer and they'll be a little tighter. So I'm concerned each and every game because our margin isn't the same. With that being said, I do think consistency was our goal as we go. I do think obviously Princeton and Columbia both on the road are very difficult. Opening with Iona, which was an NCAA tournament team. We have UNLV, which finished in the top 25 last year, coming to us. We have USC in Baha Mar. We have East Carolina, another NCAA team in Baha Mar. I have a lot of respect for the new coaches at Central Connecticut State. They're going to do a good job. And we're going to be challenged. And, I'm sure I'm probably forgetting one or two other people. Fairleigh Dickinson has one of the best coaches in the country. I'm now in step with Coach Gately. So every game is going to be hard for us. And FDU won their league last year as well. So, we're going to have to get a good balance of playing really good defense, playing really consistently, and finding a way to score some points because, we lost so many. But I think it's a great challenge. I think we put ourselves, if we win our games, we're going to have a chance to make the, postseason. If we don't, then we're going to have to see how to get better.
We're going to wrap it up here, Coach, with I think maybe the most important question that I have for you today. You've given tons of speeches within your coaching career, but I have to know, your daughter's wedding, you had the father of the bride speech. How did that one measure up to the rest of the speeches that you've given?
It was certainly the most emotional and the most important that I've ever given. And I appreciate you asking me. Those of you who know me, Sam and I are extremely close. I'm blessed with a wonderful, wonderful wife and an amazing son. And I wanted to make sure in that speech that they were both acknowledged as well. I will say she's married a great guy. I love him. I really do. I could only wish every father their daughter finds someone like him and his parents. They're just wonderful people. So I tried to acknowledge all that. But most of all, I wanted everyone to know it was a great night because there were 6 grandparents there, and out of possibly 8. And for my mom, my in-laws, Chris's grandparents, to be there meant everything to me. I grew up with all 4 of my grandparents until I was 21 years old, and it was great. My dad wasn't there, unfortunately, but he looked down, and I will say it was an emotional, the most important speech I've ever given. As my friend, mentor, and former AD Pat Lyon said, no speech is ever too short. So I made sure I kept it concise. But it was great to have a lot of great friends there, a family there, and most important, my wife and my son and our grandparents. It was great. I appreciate you asking. It's one of the greatest days of my life. Everyone here at Seton Hall did an amazing job. She got married here. It was amazing. It's why I love Seton Hall. It was about family.
Yeah, that is so special. And she looked stunning. You looked great as well, Coach. Nice and handsome. And I bet you there was not a dry eye listening to your speech. I bet you.
No. And she was thankfully cool as a cucumber because, it was different, but it was wonderful. I want to show everyone out there how beautiful she was, and how beautiful the family was. I'm going to show it right now. It was a night that you could only dream and wish for, and this is it for everyone. That's us and the family, and she looked amazing, and I was really proud of that that night for sure.
What was the song that you guys had your dance to?
"Wonder of You" by Elvis Presley. So
I love it. Yeah. I love it. Coach Bozzella, thank you so much for joining us. Very first guest here on In the Bonus. This was such a treat.
It was great to be with you. I'm excited. I love the Big East. I love everything you're doing. This is going to be a great podcast with a great host. And go Pirates.
Time to see if one of you can answer. Get this one is actually so much harder. Like, I feel like we started with maybe a little bit of a softball, and now I'm asking you to win this one, but we'll see. Who knows? Which year did the Marquette women's basketball team make their first appearance in the NCAA tournament?
This is our first episode, and they're really putting I want to, Marquette is a storied program. I'm going to assume this goes back pretty far. Can I give a decade, or do I have to?
We can give decade. I'll say we give decade.
I'm going to guess the 1970s. Okay. If I had to just throw out a random year, let's say 1974.
Okay.
Cool. I'm going to guess the 90s. I was born in the 90s. I rock with the 90s. I'm going to guess the 90s.
Okay. Do we have just a toss-up of an exact year?
Sure. Let's go 93.
My birth year. Okay. I love that. All right. Well, we're going to take a break. We have plenty more schedules to go over coming up next, including Marquette, Xavier, and Villanova. And we'll let everyone at home, no Googling allowed, take your best guess at this one. We'll be back with more after this.
When I'm not selling hot dogs, I invest in a fund that advances innovations like robotics.
Fresh, warm hot dogs straight out of my torso. One for you, one for you. Oh, you're a messy one.
Cool, right? So cool.
Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ, a fund that gives you access to NASDAQ 100 innovations.
Hot dogs. Fresh, warm hot dogs.
Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
We went from a nice little softball to probably hardest question we're going to have all day with our trivia. Which year did the Marquette women's basketball team make their first appearance in the NCAA tournament? Ooh!
Oh my goodness.
Okay, 94.
Oh, okay. I was decades off.
No one wanted to hear what my guess would have been. All right. Nice. 1-0, baby.
Do I get credit? Is this horseshoe? Do I get credit for being close? Like, I'm the closest in margin? I did. I'm like right there. I mean, out of all the years we could have said, that's pretty good.
Very impressive.
I'll give at least partial. You 1-0. Sorry.
Okay.
There's more where that came from. Okay, let's stick with Marquette to look at how the Golden Eagles kick off conference play here. Tough opener for them. Creighton, UConn, St. John's to tip off conference play. Yeah, oof, a doozy. But I think the Golden Eagles are definitely able to handle it. They do lose some players who we have had the joy of watching throughout their careers. Ice, I know you are sad to see Chloe Murata gone.
Oh, sad is not even the word. I think covering the Big East last year, I had a couple of Marquette games, and just getting to know her one-on-one. I mean, Chloe Murata, just world-class human being. In terms of what she does off the court, I read right now that she's coaching a little girls team in her local area before she's getting ready to go overseas for the first time, and congratulations to her for becoming a pro. But, I mean, what she meant to this team in terms of her production, obviously, almost averaging a double-double, but really it's the leadership for me, guys, and Kim and Meg. It's the leadership that she brought to Coach Duffy's team that they are going to miss the most. And so I'm curious to see, besides a Jordan King that's returning, who else can step up in that leadership role, because it was the two of them that were like Batman and Robin for the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, and I'm going to miss Chloe as well, but I think as a credit to her, when you have a player that has really embodied the program, had such a close relationship with Megan Duffy, you hope that her legacy stays with the program, and you hope that you still see different areas she impacted the team. You hope you still see that coming through this year. And they have a ton of other returners. Jordan King had a monster year last year. I think we were all excited to see that she was going to come back and take that extra year at the point guard spot, 16 points a game, about 4 assists. I wouldn't be surprised if both of those numbers go up a little bit more this year, maybe 5-6 assists per game. They will need her to score a little bit more, I think, without Chloe Murata. Liza Carlin, a name I'm looking at, she missed a significant amount of time last year with an injury, so we didn't get to see a fully healthy season. Still impressive numbers considering that. And then Kenzie Hare, a Big East All-Freshman member, really their three-point sniper from the arc, hit some big-time shots in big games, like postseason games. So I think you have a great core coming back. I will go into a transfer that I'm really excited about. We talk about the immense loss of Chloe Murata inside. There's a young lady named Franny Hottinger. Apologies if we're pronouncing that incorrectly, Franny. We'll get it right before the season, but Player of the Year in the Patriot League. I don't care what conference you're playing in. If you're putting up 20 and 10, I mean, that is big time. I have a lot of respect for the Patriot League. I know Ice, we grew up, and Meg too, kind of in this Northeast area, and it's a high level of basketball, smart players. So I think they are getting a great replacement. Not that you're going to replace Chloe Murata, but you're getting another force on the inside. I'm excited to see Franny Hottinger for the Golden Eagles.
Yeah, I was going to say, and just highlighting Franny, you always look at a transfer to see what program they're coming from. And Lehigh is that type of smart, high IQ, like Kim said, a team that can make reads. Knowing Coach Duffy, and I've known her personally for a ton of years, she cares about high IQ players that can make reads. And so I thank her for that as well. I'm also going to say Lee Volker. I think a player that has been in a Carol Lawson system for 2 years at Duke. Obviously, we're not seeing the experience in terms of the amount of games played. But again, high IQ player. You're competing against the best players in the country in practice. And so those 2 years at Duke, she hasn't been able to get on the court and really establish herself. Let's see if she can do that with the Golden Eagles. I think that's a key transfer that's coming in as well.
I actually got the chance to see Franny play once last year. I was out covering football, and after the game, they're like, "Hey, you want to come and watch some hoops?" And I was like, "Of course." And I cannot be more excited to see what she's going to bring to the conference, because immediately you just can't help it, right? Your eyes go to her. And I remember just thinking everything looked really smooth. It was like, it was very nice to watch. Like, how sometimes basketball, you're like, this just looks really nice too. It looked nice.
Important.
Let's turn to Xavier now. So, new head coach this year for Xavier. They've got Billy Chambers, first year here with the Musketeers. As we take a peek, tough task for them also. they'll open up with DePaul. We'll see what DePaul looks like this season. And then they have a little bit of Villanova and Marquette, both of those games away. So Coach Chambers is going to be put to the test right off the bat in conference play. Kim, I'll start with you of just new coach for a team that really has struggled a bit in the past, bringing in new ideas, new concepts, new personnel as well. What is really exciting with this newer start for the Musketeers?
Yeah, well, I think anytime a new coach comes in, especially to a program that has been struggling, you want to first and foremost establish a culture of the team, what you're expecting of your players, what your players can expect of the coaching staff. The good news for Coach Chambers, there is a nice core that is returning, as we see here. Michaela Scarlett, just a tough-nosed guard from New York City, one of the most improved players in the conference last season. So they do have her at the helm. Nyla Blackford was a transfer who kind of came in mid-season last year. She had been injured. She's a big presence inside. So I think Coach Chambers does have some nice pieces that will provide that leadership as they're looking to, kind of turn the tide of this program. And I did have the chance to call a couple of Coach Chambers games at Iona last season. They had a tremendous season, and their system was really, you talk about fun to watch. Iona was very fun to watch last year. They had a really spread out offense, ton of shooting on the perimeter. I think they actually led the nation in like 3-point percentage, maybe 3-point makes as well. So interested to see, can she establish some shooters to kind of to bring that sort of style of play out to Cincinnati.
I love that. How about you, Ice? What are you thinking with Xavier?
Yeah, absolutely. I love Kim that you saw firsthand what Billy Chambers' style is like at Iona, because she did a fantastic job. Won a conference championship there back in the 2010s. I think for me, it's defense. A team that has struggled in this conference, a new coach, getting new players. We're seeing some of the newcomers that they have coming in. It's a transfer there from Houston, which again, we like to see transfers because they bring a little bit of experience, especially when you have a team that's been struggling in the league. But it's going to be defense for me. As much as they need to establish some shooters and that offensive consistency that she's had wherever she's coached, dating back to the Virginia Tech era where she was an assistant coach and then at Iona. But defense is going to have to be the staple. If you want to make your mark in the league, if you want to try and just start from a good position as a new coach, can you stop others? Worry about scoring the next year when you're bringing in some better transfers and you're getting some players that are growing in their game. But defense is something you don't need talent or skill to do. There needs to be a great strategy and a great culture to it, as Kim already alluded to.
Ice, I have a question for you, especially we'll continue to talk more transfers, but from someone who has experienced it yourself, how as a player are you really able to establish yourself on a team? I feel like defense, like you said, kind of just comes with it, but offensively, how do you gain that the trust and the respect of your teammates so quickly, especially when you do have multiple transfers on a team?
That's a great question, Meg. I would say first thing for me was just understanding what the coaches want. The best players on the court understand what coaches want. And so if you're able to lead that, whether it's, hey, guys, we're trying to score in the first 6 seconds in the shot clock, we got to make sure we get into our secondary quicker. Whether it's on defense, knowing that we're not giving up baseline, we're actually forcing middle because we've got a 6'5" shot blocker. Whatever your strategies are, you've got to come in as a transfer and be like, okay, it's my job to lock in and know what coach wants on the floor. And then as a transfer, honestly, it's making sure that your game is on point. I remember coming in and transferring to Syracuse. It was the year after they had gotten to the national championship game and lost to UConn. And I was like, listen, this team is known for shooting threes. They're known for having a ton of shooters. I've got to make sure that I'm shooting the ball at a high clip. And so my job was to get in the gym, get extra shots up, and be that really good shooter that's coming off the bench as the 2 guard, knocking down shots. And so I would say for transfers, first thing is just, hey, understanding the system that you're being brought into. And the second thing is making sure that what you're going to be demanded to give in that system, you're working on and you're perfecting the things that you're coming in really good at.
I love that. Let's turn to Villanova, who they're going to be demanding a lot of their players again this season, coming off of last year's spectacular run to the Sweet 16. When I look at the Wildcats schedule, I really actually look at the end of this. They do open up against St. John's. Villanova wraps up conference play away against Creighton, away against UConn, and then finally home against DePaul. So tough task for the Wildcats, who are, no news here, without Maddie Siegrist, who we are so proud of. Maddie in the W, crushing it. But Kim, to you first. No Maddie Siegrist for Villanova. Lucy Olson did come on, and she had a pretty strong end of her season. But who are you really looking forward to maybe take on that leadership role and maybe take a step further again this season?
Well, I'm first just going to make a quick note as we were looking at that schedule. I think Villanova has really established a strong home court presence. I think fans in the Philly community last season especially have really started to support that program. Obviously, you had a top player in the nation to go in and watch her every night, but I think they've really respected and bought into what Denise Dillon has established there. So I think Finneran Pavilion is becoming a very, very difficult place to play. UConn, had 2 tough games in the regular season with Nova last year. So that's just my first general note on them. But you talked about some national team experience with some Creighton players. Villanova had 2 of those this year in Lucy Olson and Christina Dalsey. Just multiple gold medals teaming up with Morgan Molly of Creighton in different tournaments. I think we are going to see big time jumps from those 2, especially Christina Dalsey, because Lucy Olson had made a big jump from freshman to sophomore year. She is only getting better. I think she's highly underrated. And now I think she is starting to get some national recognition that she deserves with the national team experience. But I think we're going to see an enormous improvement from Christina Dalsey. I thought just watching her game to game last season, so much improvement. Her footwork inside, her finishing ability. I think at first she was a little rushed. Now the game's starting to slow down for her a little bit. So I think you have 2 tremendous returners in those 2 players who are confident, who are talented. Maddie Burke, a name we see there. I think they're going to need a lot more out of Maddie Burke this year. She's known as their 3-point shooters. I recall being on one of her games last year where I think she had 5 threes in the first quarter alone. Like was 5 for 5, 15 points on the road at Creighton in the first quarter. So you see 7 points a game. I think that's got to get into double digits for her this season. So obviously you're replacing a first-team All-American, but I do like what is returning as well for Denise Dillon's group.
A lot of nodding from you. You're in agreement, but who are you also, excited for with maybe some of the newcomers as well?
Yeah, for sure. What I'm going to say is it's always different when you're coming home. And we've got a player that's transferring in from the SEC that was on the SEC all-freshman team at Mississippi State that is coming back home. She's originally from Philly. I'm really excited to see what Danae Carter is going to do for Villanova. I just think being a transfer, sometimes when you go away and you have success and you decide that you want something new, being closer to home just always makes you feel like you want to perform more. You know that you're going to have friends and family in the building. I know from being in South Jersey, hooping in Philly, that she is a name that we are aware of in the Philly area. So I'm excited to see what she can do. But I also think because they need to replace Maddie Siegrist, they needed a forward that's going to come in, that's going to have some size, going to be able to demand the paint. And I really think Danae Carter could have a really good opportunity of having a breakout season for this team in the Big East.
Well, and then to Kim's point about the Finn being so hard to play at, you bring in, Danae better be bringing in family and friends, and we better have a loud cheering section.
It's the most annoying thing ever when you're looking at the ticket list and maybe you only get four family members and you're like bargaining with teammates like, hey, I'll get you Panera tomorrow if you give me 4 members of your ticket list. I have 20 people coming.
But I was going to say what they're going to have to do is they're going to have to get some of their own trivia for their family members and be like, all right, whoever can get these trivia questions right wins the tickets.
Yep. I love it.
We don't have any trivia for this break, thank God. You guys are going to have your brains get like a little bit of a break. Coming up after this break, we'll talk a little bit more St. John's and Georgetown.
Fresh, warm hot dogs.
When I'm not selling hot dogs, I invest in a fund that advances innovations like robotics.
Fresh, warm hot dogs straight out of my torso. One for you, one for you. Oh, you're a messy one.
Cool, right? So cool.
Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ, a fund that gives you access to NASDAQ 100 innovations.
Hot dogs. Fresh farm hot dogs.
Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Did you know the Red Storm recorded wins in each of its first 13 contests last season, the best start in program history? We'll get into their historic season in just a hot second, Kim. First, let's look at their schedule to start things off for St. John's, who honestly, last year it was so much fun to really watch them, but they have a tough open to the conference schedule. Villanova at home, yes, but then they have to head out to face Creighton away, and then they'll face Marquette as well. And the excitement around watching St. John's last year, Kim, was the transfers that Coach Tortorella did bring in and how well. We've kind of been talking a little bit about transfers coming in this season, but how well the transfers really did jive last season for the Johnnies. And Coach Tortorella, I remember talking to him early on in the season. He was so proud of them, of the maturity, of the veteran experience that he brought in. What were some of like your takeaways of they're coming off of such a historic season? How do you kind of build off of that now this season?
Yeah, well, that did you know was a perfect segue into the historic season they had. Not only the winning streak, they beat UConn. They went back to the NCAA tournament. They won an NCAA tournament game. They nearly won two. I was fortunate enough to get that assignment. They nearly almost advanced to the next round. So they had a tremendous season. Credit to Coach Tortorella. I think he went into the transfer portal and found pieces that really fit with what they were lacking, what they wanted to become. And then I think I also credit a lot of St. John staff with player development. I think we see their players, whether they're young players, whether they're transfers, they come in and they get better. Jayla Everett, prime example, player we are really going to miss watching this season for St. John's, an electric player, always captivated us as announcers, as viewers. So I really think Joe Tortorella and his staff have really bought into the transfer portal, finding those perfect niches for what they need, and then developing the players once they get. So I mentioned Jayla Everett. She had just 1 year at St. John's as a transfer, and man, did she make the most of it, getting her team to the NCAA tournament, all Big East first team. Kadeja Bailey, another veteran. It's hard to believe we're not going to see her out there this season. She had been such a staple, a local Queens kid, stayed home, didn't transfer, stayed there all, I think, 5 seasons she ended up playing. So they are losing some veteran players here. Raven Peoples, big-time rebounder inside. So Coach Tortorella going to have to rework things a little bit. He does have 2 really good pieces coming back. And Unique Drake, she was the 6th Woman of the Year. That's obviously not going to be the case this season. She will be the starting point guard for this team, but you essentially bring back a starting point guard, even though she was coming off the bench last season. And then Jillian Archer, we mentioned the rebounding of Raven Peoples. Archer was really the 1-2 punch inside. So you have a point guard, you have a big time presence inside. What else can Joe Tortorella get out of these players we're seeing on this list? I'm going to highlight Amber Brown. I had the pleasure of talking with her a bit this weekend at the Great Transition Game program. She did say we could call her AB, so we could get the nicknames out there. But she too is coming from Pitt. That is where Jayla Everett came. She was a former teammate of Jayla Everett. So you have to think that those two were in discussion as to, hey, Jayla Everett telling her, I came here and got way better. she must fit the system if she's following her teammate in Everett. And then also looking at Bernia Mayo, Atlantic 10, another conference that I really respect, MVP of the tournament coming out of UMass. So impressive numbers, 12 points a game, 4 assists per game, 4 rebounds as just a sophomore. So that just, to me, I haven't personally seen her play, but sounds like a dynamic guard who can really impact the game in different categories. And I think that's what you need when you're looking to replace a player like Kadeja Bailey, who is just kind of a do everything for the Red Storm.
Kadeja Bailey was also a little bit of like the heart and the soul of the Red Storm, I think. In talking about player development, Coach Tartamella spoke so highly of her, of the buy-in and the constant work that Kadeja was putting into her game, and we were able to really see it last year. So I'm also interested with the Red Storm, Kim, to see who kind of immerses as the leader really this year on the team. We saw Jillian Archer transfer in last season. I'm excited to kind of see what she's able to bring. And maybe she's a little bit more of a leader this year for Seton Hall. She did transfer from Georgetown. So let's get into Georgetown a little bit. Let's take a peek at the Hoyas schedule to start things off with. The Hoyas will open up conference play. They're home. What kind of excites you about looking at what Georgetown can bring to the table this year?
Excitement is the word that comes to mind. I do want to, give some credit to Jimmy Howard. I think he brought in some great players, and a lot of those players are returning this season. But I think in recent years, we had seen Georgetown kind of start to turn that corner, beating some unlikely opponents, being in tight games. Even last year, they were close with UConn. And they're just a team that I think has great leadership. They've bought in and gotten more confident in what it takes to win a game and to close out a game. As we take a look at some of these returning players, Kelsey Ransom I've always been a huge fan of hers in her time in the league. I was somewhat surprised she didn't get Defensive Player of the Year last season. I would say she was probably the runner-up to Nika Mule. Maybe if they had won a few more games, she gets that award, but look out for her. And I'm talking steals, but you see what she does across the board. 12 points a game, 6 rebounds, 3 assists, an electric, dynamic guard, tough as nails, brings the energy. So she's really leading the charge there. Grace Ann Bennett, tremendous leadership, has come back for another year. Brianna Scott down there at the bottom, another player who brings them tremendous size, showed the ability to stretch the floor a little bit, come out and hit some threes. They do have a big loss. They lost the Big East Freshman of the Year, unfortunately, Kennedy Fauntleroy. Excited about a newcomer in Maya Bembry. We've seen this a couple times in the last season or two, intra-conference transfers. Maya Bembry had spent several years at Seton Hall. She's now coming over to the Hilltop. Was more of a role player at Seton Hall, but hit some big-time shots, game-winning shots. She's a big presence inside, can step out a little bit, really smooth touch around the basket. And like we've said, we saw Jillian Archer go Georgetown to St. John's. In this age of transfers, to have a player that comes in and knows the systems of the opponents, knows the travel schedule of the Big East, knows the toughest arenas to play in. I think that's a big bonus for Georgetown. I think we're going to see Maya Bembry probably emerge into more of a scoring role than she was at Seton Hall. It's a nice piece to add in.
All right, speaking of rejuvenate, Kim, are you going to revive yourself with this next trivia? Which Big East women's basketball team holds the record for most points per game in a season?
I'm wondering if this is a trick question, because the obvious answer seems like it should be DePaul. Like, they put up 90 every season, but I feel like, is that too easy of an answer? Is this like an old Big East team from like the 80s? But I'll stick with DePaul, even though it seems a little too obvious. Maybe they wanted to give me an easier one after I was so wrong on my last answer.
I was going to say, I think that you're completely right, because that is what came to mind. I know back in the day, Georgetown used to be really good, but I'm not sure how good they were. Like, if their points per game is going to is going to help us out now with the recent years. I'm not sure. Is it against the rules if I say the same team?
No.
Is that cheating?
Double down.
No.
Not exactly. Ideally, I would love for different, but like I'm not gonna general. DePaul. You said DePaul.
Yeah.
We're gonna go with DePaul. And if you're both right, you're both right. We're gonna hear, is it DePaul after this? And we will also go over schedules from Providence, Butler, and we will hear from Providence new head coach Erin Batth.
Fresh, warm hot dogs.
When I'm not selling hot dogs, I invest in a fund that advances innovations like robotics.
Fresh, warm hot dogs straight out of my torso. One for you, one for you. Oh, you're a messy one.
Cool, right? So cool.
Anyone can become an agent of innovation with Invesco QQQ, a fund that gives you access to NASDAQ 100 innovations.
Hot dogs. Fresh farm hot dogs.
Before investing, carefully read and consider fund investment objectives, risk, charges, expenses, and more in prospectus at Invesco.com.
Answer time for Big East trivia. Which Big East women's team holds the record for most points per game in the season? Is it DePaul? Ooh, Providence. Okay, well, let's stick on the Friars then.
That is shocking. Providence, 95 a game.
While we're on the topic of Providence, though, we're going to get into my interview with their new head coach, Erin Batth, here in just a second. Let's first take a quick peek at their upcoming schedule. They start away, but really, I look at the end of how they finish. A really tough task if you're looking at it. St. John's, Seton Hall, and UConn. Yes, they do get those last two games at home, but a tough stretch there in late February, early March. I'm so excited for everyone to watch this upcoming interview. Erin Batth, honestly, throughout this entire interview, I was ready to like lace up, to get on the court and just have not only then play with her, just like go out and have a fun lunch with her. She is so much fun. I'm pumped for everyone to get to know the new head coach of the Providence Friars a little bit more. Here's our interview. We are so excited to welcome into not only in the bonus, but into the Big East Conference, the brand new head coach of the Providence Friars women's basketball team, Erin Batth. Erin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank everybody. I'm so excited. This is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Talking about excitement a little bit, what drew you to the Big East that has you so excited for this year?
Oh, well, we've great competition, first of all. And I've always been a fan of the schools that are in the conference. I just can't even, growing up, obviously watching UConn dominate and continue. And I always loved Villanova and DePaul and just even the areas of where these schools are located. But really, I'm from the East Coast. So I enjoy it. It's good to be back over here now, a little bit up north, which I love. It's fine. But really, it was just like, it's a sleeping giant. And Big East is just all around academically. I think it's huge. The academics in this conference is awesome. They offer so much to student athletes. I have come across many student athletes that have played in the Big East Conference, and they have nothing but awesome things to say and great memories. So it was a true blessing just to have this opportunity.
And now you're in Friartown. I know you were able to you were mentioning settle yourself in a little bit more so in July. What's been maybe your favorite part about the little bits that you've been able to explore Friartown so far?
Oh my gosh, the people, Friar family, let's go. Oh my goodness, talking about welcoming you with open arms, and not even just Friartown, but even in the city of Providence. Y'all, there's a place called Federal Hill. I've gained 15 pounds. I'm telling you, I go up there, it's like, oh, there's a coach. Bring her more pasta. I'm like, oh, crap. So, honey, I love it. Just wonderful people. We are a family. Welcome me with open arms. And it's a big deal when you're first time anything or just new, right? New kid on the block. You want to be accepted. And it was just, I'm home. It was really quick. So the love has been great. It's got to be the people for sure.
Erin, going off that a little bit, first time anything, since you brought it up, you are the first female Black head coach for Providence women's basketball. How much pride do you have in being named that?
Yeah, and I appreciate you asking me that question. It is actually one that's always put tears in my eyes. I'm not going to do it today, but because it's so huge. But I have got to give credit to the administration here. Steve Knapp, my athletic director, for him to give me this opportunity is huge. And I cannot thank him enough. Jill LaPointe, Dave Berard, all of them to come together and give me this opportunity. It's been amazing. And it's just, there's no words I can put by, but I will tell you this. My mom's like, girl, you better represent. I'm like, oh Lord. So honey, let me tell you, if anything, my mom better get it right. So no, it's an honor. Absolute honor.
Will we be able to meet your mom at any games this season? Is she going to be getting some sideline seats?
Honey, I hope so. I don't know. You can hear her. I know that much. You think I'm loud. You should get it from my mom for sure. But we'll see. Mom's been up here already to visit. She's in New Jersey, but she loves it. So
Jersey girl. I love that. Erin, you have years and years of coaching experience, 17 plus years of coaching experience. But prior to that, you were a player yourself, had a great professional career. So let's learn a little bit about Erin as the player. How would you describe yourself when you were playing?
Well, I'm going to first just say I'm going to give a lot of credit to my former head coach, Jim Davis. He is a wonderful man, and so I give him a lot of credit for molding me into the player I was. But I have fire, girl. Let's go. You kidding me? And I'm in the building, so I got a lot of energy. Okay, I'm standing a strapping 6'2", 6'4" on a good day. Heels on. But definitely a defensive-minded player. Love to box out, rebound. I'm your post player. Got a lot of different looks and different experiences overseas, but a lot of fire, and that's what I bring, and that's what my team will be for sure. I have a lot of energy.
Have you seen any players on your team so far this season that has some of that Erin fire in them?
Yes, I got to give it up to Bryn. Bryn's fiery. That's my girl. She gets after it too. Grace has it too. Gracie Fosa. So there's quite a few players, and I'm excited about that. So I just can't wait. Cannot wait.
One of the things that always sticks out with us at the Big East Conference is when you speak with coaches are always talking about the relationships they have with one another, competitors on the court. But it was great. We were talking with Seton Hall's head coach, Tony Bozzella, a little bit ago, and he was mentioning yet again the relationships with the other coaches within the conference. So I'm curious, how have you started to develop some of these relationships? Who have you really gotten to know so far?
Well, I'll tell you what, it started down in the head coaches meeting down in Florida. These are my people. We had a good old time, y'all. I ain't gonna lie. I got a chance to sit next to Tony. We made with my bestie right there. I love hearing Doug talk. He's hilarious. And I've known Joey Tartamala forever. So he's a blessing just to be around him too. Great atmosphere. Denise Dillon, I have been a fan of hers since Drexel. That woman can coach. Are you kidding me? So just even being in the same room with her as well. And obviously Gino and hearing his thoughts and his wisdom, just been really amazing. Like, I cannot believe I got a chance to be with these people. And that's just, I didn't even name everybody, but I have reached out and talked to a few coaches. I've always known Coach Tartamala. He's been wonderful, but really excited to continue to build these relationships. But they've been wonderful. And when I tell you, we had a great time. I mean, you would have never known that we were going to go battle each other, in a couple months here. But I know if I can call anybody in this conference, they're going to help me. And it's not like that everywhere. So the Big East is definitely a very special place. Very special.
It really is. And Friartown is special as well. Erin, we need to know a little bit more about your team this season. What are the Providence Friars going to look like this year?
Well, I'd love to answer that completely right now, but I'll tell you some of the things that we focused on this summer was pace, communication, like sisterhood, and aggression, to be violent. I want us to be, oh my goodness, I don't care the score. I want every opponent to remember who we are. I want them to hear us. I do. And I just think we're going to leave a mark. And we're going to be great defensively minded. We're going to get after it. Every loose ball, I want it to be our ball. We're going to get on that floor. And so the little things are going to be very intangible, but very important, to what we do. But again, offenses, we're going to do all those good things. But I tell you what, when I took this position and I spoke to everybody on the team, and we have to be in the best shape of our life, period. So we can really take information, be focused, and get things done and be disciplined. So we're going to be in good shape. So I want us to show that. I want us to be able to press a little bit if we have to, but do the little things really, really well. I want us to smile and have fun. I want us to have the best bench there is. Are you kidding me? So I pray on that, and I know we can do it.
Do you have some good bench moves? Like, are we going to see you getting really involved? Come on. There
yeah, honey. First of all, I got me a cortisone shot in my right knee 2 weeks ago. So y'all ain't ready, Big East. Mm-hmm. No, honey, no, I can't move like I used to. But I do get excited. And I definitely want to cheer the girls on, the women on as they go. But yeah, it's going to be good. I'm excited.
I love that. How about in practice a little? I know, okay, cortisone shot, but are you a coach who in practice, are you getting into the nitty gritty with your players? Are you still doing some drills with them?
Yes. Well, I do not do drills, no, but I will demonstrate, honey, at my own speed. And if I score, it's worth 5 points. Okay. Don't let me score. But no, I do demonstrate. I get out there. I love it. The staff, they're great. They get out there as well. So I do get in there. Absolutely. They know, and I can move out the way, honey. When I come in there, they already know I mean business, but I don't go up and down anymore, but I do get in there and demonstrate so I love it. I mean, it's such a blessing. I can't even explain how amazing it is to be able to coach and to be out there, those women.
Erin, I want the fans to get to know you a little bit more as well. And one thing that I did recognize, you have a little tattoo right here. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that if you look on the women's basketball Twitter account, there's now a tweet that comes out every Sunday Versus. Mm-hmm. I'm interested to know, how important is your faith to you, and how has it come into the program as well?
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you asking about this. Faith is everything to me, but I am not perfect. My tattoo is on my birthmark to remind me how messed up I am and who made me and who I belong to. That is me. My faith is not impressed on anybody. I just want to be a light, and I want my women to be a light to others, no matter what it is. And so with that, being at the school that we're at, which is a huge blessing, I'm able to do that. We are able to tweak those verses out and do those things. I think it's very important, but it is everything. It's just a great reminder that, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, as everybody will. That's how he has it designed. But it's how you get up and who you bring with you, because you can't go alone. You rise, you got to bring somebody with you. So that's really a big part of how I coach and what I do. But just the Sunday verse is just a little bit of information, little pick me up, a little reminder. But again, there's no judging at all. Not everybody, is a believer on the team, and that's totally fine. I love them all. There's not, when I get this, I got to go back to Coach Davis on this too, because Coach Davis at Clemson University, he coached us. Not one time did I ever feel like he didn't care about me. Not one time. Man loved me. Didn't have a dad in my life. He fit the bill. I'm telling you why. I still call him today. And that's what I do. So my faith is reared around that. How can I be a light to others? Am I making sure the women I coach know I care about them first, that I will run through the wall first before I ask them to do so. So that's kind of what I do. And the staff that I'm with is great. But it's huge. I really appreciate you asking about that. But it's just a reminder to me, like, ooh, girl, you need to get it together, or, you know what I'm saying? And it's going to be okay. It's going to be all right. So.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. I've saved. There's been a couple of the Sunday verses that have come out that
that makes me happy.
I love those. Erin, we'll wrap it with this. Yeah. What is your message to not only Providence women's basketball fans, but to Big East women's basketball fans? I want them to hear from you.
I am blessed to be here, first of all, and to be in the presence of all of these great coaches, and the women I get to coach is something I will never take for granted. Know that. I will always be there for everybody who's a part of this conference and anybody who needs me, first of all. And I cannot wait to see everybody, all the playing styles. Are you kidding me? We're about to get this thing going, Big East. And I tell you what, I'm a fan of everyone till you come here and play, okay? All right? But I wish everybody the very best. What we do is a definitely privilege and an honor. And I will be there. If you ever need me, I'm there, everybody. I know it sounds crazy. You may never have had a head coach or another opponent tell you, if you need me, I'm there. But no, I'm blessed and I love it. And I cannot wait. Please come watch your Friar women battle and fight, okay, to the end. Something different going on here in Friartown, and I'll make sure of it. But yeah, that's all I would really say. Go Friars.
Go Friars. Erin, I need the season to start tomorrow. I need the season to start tomorrow. We are so excited. I cannot wait to get to cover you and the Friars this season. Thank you so much for hopping on Bonus today.
Thank you so much. Go Big East.
Well, Ice, you heard it from Coach herself. Something different going on in Friartown. What are you looking forward to with the Friars this year? A lot of returners coming in from a season ago.
I think it's what we talked about, just when you're bringing new coaches into the fold, is culture, right? I think Erin Batth is going to establish a fantastic culture at Providence. She's a coach that prior to getting this head coaching position, she was at NC State during those years in which we saw them really emerge in terms of the top 10. And so as we're looking at the returning players, one, she's got a lot to work with, right? That is a positive right off the bat. You've got players coming back that have been established in the league that know how to score. She's bringing back a ton of the majority of scoring for this team. And so I think right off the bat, her focus is, one, just culture, establishing what she wants and how she wants them to play. But also she's got a pretty good roster to start with, and that's really important.
Yeah, Meg, I'm with you in terms of wanting to play for Coach. I mean, just within moments, you see the smile. She exudes positivity and a positive energy. And I think when you're looking to rejuvenate a program, that is so important. And I think we're seeing it in all these returning players that Ice just went through, because Erin was named the head coach in the spring. So you have to think a lot of these players maybe were in the portal, thought about leaving, and they all came back. Anybody who could have came back has come back to play for Coach. And I think that just speaks volumes about kind of the messages she was able to deliver to them right away in terms of what she's looking to build. I think it's a really exciting time. Kylie Shepard, I think is going to be a junior now, but she had a really good freshman season when she first came in, had some injuries last year. She has a lot of potential. Grace Fosa, a guard who really stepped up her game, averaging close to 10 a game. And then Olivia Olsen showed a lot of promise inside. So those are kind of three pieces that I think they're going to look to build around. And we'll see what they have in store. But again, just all these new coaches coming in are just bringing excitement, and they're the type of players. And I'm like, wow, I want to play for these women, or type of coaches.
Mm-hmm. I really can't wait for everyone to have the opportunity to meet them in person. It's going to be my first time meeting some of these coaches in person at Media Day. And especially with Erin, the energy, if I was feeling that energy just on camera over Zoom, the energy in person is about to be lights out.
I think for me, it's just so awesome to see women getting these head coaching positions in this conference that we love so much. And then women of color just reflecting, the product that we're seeing on the floor.
Let's wrap up our day here with our final schedule to go over. We got to talk a little bit of Butler. Austin Parkinson now in his second year leading the Dogs. Butler opening up the season away against UConn, so pretty tough, but they're able to then come home back-to-back games against Georgetown and Seton Hall. And when you look at Butler, some key returners, Ice, but especially now this year, we're going to get some newer faces as well, and some more of Coach Parkinson's former players.
Yeah, absolutely, Meg. I think for Coach Parkinson, just having a year under your belt in this league, understanding how it goes, how it ebbs and flows. But you mentioned it, just that second year, you can bring in your players. You get your full first like recruiting class that you're looking into, where you've had time to look at players, you've had time to build the relationships and the personalities and mesh everything. Sometimes when you're getting in there in that spring, you're just taking whatever is good and is around you, and then you're hoping that it all works out. So really excited to see Rachel Kent. This is a player that is coming from IUPUI, where Coach Parkinson formerly coached. So she knows him. She knows the style and what he's looking for. First team All Horizon League selection, and she brings some size. She's a guard forward. She's also a grad transfer. So again, just a veteran leadership player. But what I loved about researching her is her efficiency, guys. She shoots 44% from the field and 38% from behind the three. Yeah. In the All Horizon League. So talking about scoring inside, but then also knocking down shots outside, she's going to bring instant offense to the team.
Something that definitely will be needed for Butler as well. It's going to be very exciting to see the Bulldogs. That's going to do it. We've now covered all 11 teams. Before we fully put a bow on this episode, we covered a lot. I mean, what are you guys, for lack of better terms, just excited about? We've got Media Day coming up so soon, and then it is game time. What are maybe, key highlights that you can't wait for this upcoming season?
I'll start by saying I think there's a lot of uncertainty heading into this season, which is really exciting in itself. We saw a couple of those teams that have really had to come up with almost brand new rosters. So kind of who are going to emerge as the top teams in this league. I think we look back to the last couple seasons, teams that have been towards the bottom of the league, Xavier, Providence, Georgetown, Butler. I believe all of those teams now have a new coach within the last 2 seasons, going back to Austin from 2 seasons ago. I think the bottom tier of teams are going to start to get a lot better in this league, and it's going to make things even more exciting when we get to the Big East tournament and Mohegan Sun again. So I think the fact that there's a lot of question marks is exciting to me. Go back to the beginning of the show. UConn, very exciting this year with hopefully Paige and AZ back on the floor together, Aaliyah Edwards. And just to see the teams that have started to really emerge as national contenders and NCAA tournament game winners, Nova, Creighton, how are those teams continuing to grow and mature with that experience? And how is that kind of trickling down to the other teams in the league who have been inspired by those performances?
For sure. And Kim, I'm going to say, I'm just really excited to see the newcomers. We've obviously highlighted the newcomers in terms of coaches, but it's always my favorite thing when there's a player in the league that no one can guard because they're just not used to seeing her. They're just not used to adjusting to how she's played. Like, it's like in Lauren Park Lane that we're going to miss so much from Seton Hall that's getting ready to go crush the SEC because nobody's seen her before. I feel like we're going to get some really good newcomers in this conference. I'm excited to see just what some of the transfers, some of the redshirt freshmen look like, and then some of the brand new freshmen that are going to get thrown into the fire and that are going to compete. I think lastly, a team that I'm looking to surprise the Big East a little bit is Marquette. I think they have some really good pieces. It's always awesome to watch Jordan King and the way that she navigates the game of basketball so effortlessly. But I think that's a team as well that I think later in terms of conference play, we'll be like, Golden Eagles are right there coming for everyone.
Well, we'll be coming for everyone throughout the season, every Wednesday in the bonus. We're pumped for it. We'll be all together on Media Day. That's October 24th, so I can't wait to be in person with you guys. Lisa Roman, who wasn't able to join us for this episode, will also be joining us throughout the season. In the bonus, we did it, guys. Episode 1 in the books. Thank you to Isis Young, Kim Adams, myself, Meghan Caffrey, for joining us. We cannot wait to be with everyone again at Media Day. For now, that was in the bonus. We'll see you guys soon.